Hello, everyone, and welcome to 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the small, significant, and strategic choices in order to become the best versions of ourselves. My name is Dr. Michael Brown. I am the host of 3 Words, and I'm here with my dear friend, Casey Greenawalt, to discuss 3 words that as you might hear them, you'll think, nah, not me.
Yeah.
What are those 3 words, Casey?
I love these 3 words too because they fit our personalities so well. We'll talk more about that. Our 3 words for today are initiate with strangers. Initiate with strangers.
So what you're saying is we should not have stranger danger.
Stranger
we
danger.
shouldn't be teaching that to our kids.
Throw it out the window. Forget about it. No one's a stranger. We're all friends.
Well, and you acknowledge, I think, what is true of you and I and our personalities.
Yeah.
We like to initiate with strangers.
Totally.
And I don't think it's a personality thing because I think there's different levels of initiation. I mean, obviously just smiling at someone, making eye contact, even during this COVID-19, we're sitting here in the studio, distanced even ourselves. But as you're interacting with people, people can see your eyes.
Totally.
You can light up.
Smile with your eyes.
And particularly now, let's be honest, for those of us who are extroverted, who like human connection, who love social environments, this is a challenging time with masks. And so all the more people, I think, are craving, even strangers, as you pass them on the street, as you pass them in your socially distanced environments, your cubicles in your workplace, people are wanting connection. So whether it is the eye contact, whether it is the nod or the simple good morning, or even the comment, beautiful day today, huh?
Yeah.
And maybe even a question. There's different levels of initiating with strangers, but we both love it. Yeah. And I think the reason we love it is because you and I are convinced of one very important truth, that human beings are fascinating, that stories are sacred, that behind every face is a story, behind every name is this rich narrative. And so I think we're just intrigued, right? Would you agree?
100%. And you and I are both the enthusiasts. So we see every human being as this potential for this like never ending adventure, or there could be a story there that I don't know and I want to meet this person. So I think, again, that's our personality. But I want to speak to what you said earlier because I think each of us are wired differently, right? We have a certain way we see the world. We have a perspective. We have an intuitive way of responding to the things around us. I think it's important to be aware of that because as we talk about initiating with strangers, we all want to make friends. We want to know people. We want to have connections and relationships. And it starts with initiating a conversation with someone you don't already know. And so I think for you listening, you've got to learn yourself. You've got to learn what are the ways that I'm going to intuitively initiate with a stranger. For you and I, we're probably just going to walk up to someone and say, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. My name is Casey.
Yeah.
We were going to share some stories here. One story, my wife and I were in Chicago. She's a photographer. She was doing a shoot with a couple. And so I was kind of wandering around by the river, and there was a guy taking pictures, started talking to him. And I met him. He turns out he was a politician, but the direct translation of the word politician is public servant in Denmark. So he's a public servant in Denmark. And him and I had a great 5-minute conversation just about life and the differences between that perspective in America versus in Denmark. And for me, that's how it works. For Jenna, she's more intimate. She wants those probably less surface conversations and wants to dive into the nitty gritty. She's going to listen to every word you say. She's going to ask you really deep, meaningful questions. If we're at a party, I will go around to every person at the party and try and learn their name. She will sit with one person for 2 hours and have an in-depth, meaningful, life-giving conversation with them. She's initiating with strangers. I'm initiating with every stranger, and she's got that one intimate, meaningful connection that she's made. And so it looks different for all of us. Yeah. And I think we have to be self-aware enough to go, all right, strangers, people, human beings, they're sacred, they're important. Every life has value. And I want to lean into those. I want to network. I want to connect. I want to grow my sphere of influence. There's all these different reasons to initiate with strangers.
So I work on a college campus, and one of my offices is in the student union and conference center at Bowling Green State University. And pre-COVID, I would actually set my alarm when I'm going to be in the office for a long day that would go off every single hour.
I love it.
Where I would actually walk the length of the student union. And I was hoping to do 2 things. I was going to connect with someone I knew, and I was going to meet someone who I didn't.
That gives some people anxiety.
Well, and one of the things is sometimes I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And because people weren't making eye contact with me. But it's easy in that context because I can say, I don't know if we've met. I'm Michael Brown. I work here at the university. How's your college experience?
Sure.
But one of the things I enjoyed doing most was walking right up to the front of the line at Starbucks because I love my coffee. And so I'm thinking this doesn't count as cutting, but I'm going to walk right to the front of Starbucks and I'm going to introduce myself. I'd like to buy your cup of coffee today. I buy both of our cups of coffee because technically that's not cutting, right, Casey?
I guess if you buy my coffee, you can cut all
I can cut all I want. Okay. And so I would have that. And it was just fascinating. The people I have met. I also make it my, I guess, rhythm. If I see someone multiple times in a week, I tend to feel like there's a reason for that.
Totally.
So if I see this person here and then I see them over at the rec center and I see them, whatever that may be, or even if I'm in an airport, if I see them, I keep getting in line with them. We're now at Starbucks. We're at the gift shop. We're over here. Like, I'm thinking, is there a reason that we keep passing each other? And because the spiritual dimension is such an important part of my life, there's always this sense that there's deeper reasons for connections with human beings because they are extraordinary. And is there something that the higher being of the world, that God is actually planning for me? So I want to actually take advantage of those opportunities. So if I see someone 2 or 3 times, I may say, we keep passing each other. I just feel like in light of that, we should meet.
I agree.
And people tend to be, occasionally they're a little bit weirded out, but they tend to be overall really encouraged because someone took an interest in them.
People want friends. I mean, people want friends and relationships. And I think the reality is a lot of us sometimes are just too timid to make that initiation. I think some of those tips and tricks are so great. Just cutting in Starbucks and buying someone's coffee. That's awesome. I had a good leader that oversaw me for a while. My direct report, he would say, questions pull, answers push. And so as you're sitting down with somebody and maybe initiating that conversation, like, when you sit down with someone and they just spit all of their life at you, right? Like that doesn't feel great. But to be asked questions and to pull someone into a conversation, that's initiating. Like that's actually engaging in a relationship.
To be more interested in people than being interesting
exactly.
to people
You said
makes
that
100%. huge difference. You said something at the beginning of our podcast that I had never considered before. So you taught me something today, Casey.
Here we go. All right.
You actually said every friend that we now have, and you said this in so many words, was once a stranger.
Yeah.
That every person that is now the most important people in our lives at one point was a stranger.
Yeah.
And so we need to initiate with strangers if we're going to build friendships and get married and have family. Again, it all begins with, now maybe you weren't the initiator. Maybe you were the responder and someone else initiated with you. But at some point, whether it was an introduction or an initiation. So that's my question. That's my thought, particularly during this time when the only thing that seems to really matter is human connection and the people who are walking on this planet with us and those in our global village and those in our networks. Like we say this, right? We're all in this together.
Yeah.
If we're all in this together, we're all experiencing the same world in different ways through different lenses and different experiences, but we're all sharing this. I want to connect with you. Yeah. I want to meet you. I at least want to know your name. At the very least, why would I walk by someone and look away? Right. Why would I walk by someone and not say good morning or greet them or say hello? Why would I not connect with a human being even on that level, despite my personality?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. It's the right. We all desire a relationship, but for some reason we walk by someone, we put our head down, and we don't initiate that interaction. Now, I get it. Sometimes we got places to be and things to do, and I totally understand that. But if you're robbing yourself of that human connection, you're robbing yourself of, I believe, one of the most important parts of life is that connection. And I think this too, when you initiate with strangers, when you meet new people, you expand your thinking, you expand your perspective, because it's no longer this young white guy from Northwest Ohio. Now I've got the perspective of a politician in Denmark. Like, wow, that expands the way I see the world. It expands my ability to understand other people's perspective. There's a part of that that's just exciting for me. I like to learn people's stories, but there's also a part of that helps me empathize with other people who have gone through different things that I haven't been able to go through. So I think a lot of times people hear this conversation, and if you're in the business world, I know we've got a lot of listeners who are, you work in the for-profit company and you're trying to do marketing and you're trying to network, and those are great things to do. That's definitely a purpose for initiating with strangers, is to expand your influence, but also to expand your empathy, to expand your relational depth, to expand your ability to go, oh, I see why they said what they said. I might not agree with it. I might think it's totally wrong. And we just went through a season where there was probably a lot of disagreement, and you probably thought a lot of people were wrong. But imagine if you had some friends who were on the other side of that aisle and didn't think the same way you thought. And you were able to go, I don't agree with them, but I get why they got there because I initiated a conversation with someone who was strange to me, who was different to me, who wasn't what I'm used to interacting with. And that makes a big difference.
Well, and to think about human encounters, literally a 5-minute conversation could change the very trajectory of your entire life.
Totally.
Not that every one of those conversations with it, because then we'd be on this like back and forth. Oh, my trajectory is continually changing.
Yeah.
But I think that the possibility that as I begin each day, and one of the things that I like to do is think about what is most important. And one of the things that I have been really reminding myself, literally at this point, every single day, is that people are not interruptions.
No. Yeah.
That people actually are the end goal, that I'm not going to meet you and I'm not going to spend time with you as a means to an end, that just being with you is the end. Now, there might be marketing opportunities or networking opportunities or things happen, but just I'm going to be fully in your presence just because you are human and we can be human together.
I love that.
So I'm just so excited. I mean, obviously, to have this conversation with you is easy. It just flows because you and I think about this in the same way. And yet you taught me a lot today as I consider this notion that everyone I most love in my life was once a stranger. I'm going to think about that, I'm sure, indefinitely.
It's funny because I said it, but now I'm like, yeah, that is true. I'm like, wow.
So you didn't know that you knew.
Myself
you didn't know what you knew.
Yeah,
but
right.
in many ways, particularly now, when people are distanced. We talk about socially distanced. Let's make sure as humankind, as members of the global village, that we would not be relationally distanced. And what that may mean is today, this afternoon, whenever you're listening to this podcast, maybe even in the next hour, you might just find the courage, at the very least, make the choice to initiate with a stranger. For life coaching, consulting services, or to hire a keynote speaker, please visit dmbcoaching.com.